Level up with a new AAA Commanders MVP membership. Get all the benefits of AAA plus exclusive experiences, discounts, and tickets. Already a AAA member? Upgrade for free or join today at AAA.com/Commanders. Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media, Ampire. Always much appreciated when you tune in. Don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. I have a story up Tuesday about the impact of Deebo Samuel and also some of the other guys that were doing pretty well on the offense on Sunday, including Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. So a little bit on him, a lot on Deebo and his impact, and we're going to talk about his impact in a minute. Don't forget, this podcast, the John Keim Report, is presented by AAA. And I'm going to get into some game review or game discussion because I'm not going to go deep in the X's and O's, more about like, these are some of the things I saw. I always remind you, I can't use video. So before anybody starts complaining or suggesting in the comment sections, why don't you use video? Because I'm not allowed. The NFL does not allow it. Or because I represent ESPN, you're only allowed so much per week or from a game. You're only allowed 90 seconds from a game, and I can't use any of that for the podcast. So I do a couple clips. It's also on short weeks. It's a lot harder to do it because, folks, this takes a long time to put together, and I've got a lot of other stuff going on, including finishing up a Jaden Daniels story that will run on Thursday that I hope you will check out and enjoy. Also, one last thing before I get into to my review and discussion about it. Don't forget, for you club members, I will be doing another private Zoom before the game. So a few hours before the game. I believe it'll be 3 hours before the game. I know because it's a Thursday night start. Kind of makes it hard for people to join. You may be at work, maybe on your way home. I hope more people will join and take advantage of that and just have a good discussion leading into the game. Get yourself ready for the game. So join me there if you're a club member. All right, so let's get to the game review stuff, or at least the game discussion stuff. Some things I saw, picked up watching a lot of going back and watching the All-22. And what I focused on this time was I wanted to see, what was Daron Payne's impact and the D-line overall, Deebo Samuel's impact, and just some other offensive observations based on some of the stuff I was able to watch. Terry McLaurin, was he getting doubled a lot? Why wasn't he getting the ball? So all of that stuff, and plus I'll have my AAA Drive of the week in a minute. So let's start with the D-line. So yes, Daron Payne had a really good game. He made some big plays, a couple batted passes, took on a number of double teams, which I think freed up others for single team, but one-on-one blocking, and which they won, and they took advantage of it because that is not a very good defensive line, but these guys did exactly what they should do. And what I liked is a lot of people ate, right? There are a lot of people at the table, a lot of people ate. And, Payne played more than anybody on that front and did a really nice job. Really good conditioning for him to be able to play as much as he did, probably about 60% of the snaps on defense. That's really good. But I like the rotation. There were probably about 7 of their 8 defensive linemen played, around 25, 30% of the snaps. This is what I talked about in the beginning of the season or before the season, is I like the depth that they have, and there wasn't a drop off when they went to it, and they can combine different packages. And that's the other thing I like. And I'll get into all that. But I will say, Payne did a nice job. I thought some others were excellent as well, for sure, including, I think, one guy that really jumped out to me was Dorrance Armstrong. But I told you he's had a really good camp, and I've liked what he's seen. A continuation of that. Javon Kinlaw, strong game. There were a number of plays where you saw the power. Dietrich Wise, hustle plays, effort plays, mindset plays, right? And I think that permeates through this group. There's a different mindset when you watch some of these guys play. And not that the other groups that they had in previous years would dog it or anything like that. I don't think that. I just think that these guys play for a different reason, or their mindset's a little bit different about what they're looking to do. And it's not just about their glory as much as it is about getting the job done. And it's, that's not singling anybody out in particular in the past. I just think that this group is really good at that. So you definitely some stunts, some planned stunts. I think there's a little bit of timing that you'd like to see improve. And I think it will, because this is really, again, they work together throughout the summer for sure. But in game situations, things get muddled, things get faster. So you need to kind of get that cleaned up. I think there were a couple of times they caused some problems with the stunts against the run. But I think in the pass game, there are sometimes like whether they're planned stunts or if guys sometimes like end might slash inside and the tackle's got to play off them, still getting used to that. And that's the stuff that will grow, I think, as the season goes on. A lot of movement up front, but again, a lot of different kind of fronts. Um, so you'll get into some more of that. But I did one thing I liked with Payne was awareness. And there were like there if you remember his first stop on the stop on the first series, it was there was a screen pass, right, reads it right away. Screen pass out to the right, reads it right away, gets over there, makes his tackle, and it probably would have been snuffed out anyway, but he does a really good job, recognize it, immediately backs and gets over to his left and does a nice job with it. Later in the game, reads the running back, and he reads the running back, um, makes a pressure at Russell Wilson, causes a bad throw, head, and I will say, causes an incompletion. Now I will say, if the pass is completed, I believe it was Bobby Wagner was out there, would have had to drop the guy for a 5-yard loss. But a really good job by Payne. So I think, he clearly did a nice job, but I don't think it was certainly was not a one-man wrecking crew. I think it was a combined group effort, and you saw contributions pretty much from all over. Like I could go over, a lot of guys who did things. I liked the big package. So that was Dietrich Wise, Payne, Goldman, Kinlaw, and Jacob Martin. And I think when they had those, when that group was in there together, New York ran the ball twice for a -3-yard loss. One of the first times they did it, I saw Kinlaw getting off his guy. Eddie Goldman comes free. And so those guys combine a tackle, and then Bobby Wagner clean to the ball. That's how it's supposed to go, folks. And that's what you saw. So that was a really good job there. Loved what I saw from Quan Martin. I like the versatility. And this is something he showed at Illinois. I think they're tapping into that more. And there were times where they could use different packages and have him matched against Malik Neighbors. Now, is it always going to go well? No, but he can do that. And one time, but this is where I like. So he had a couple of really nice sticks, but one time he misses a tackle. And Dan Quinn talked about this on his Zoom with the media on Monday. But so he misses a tackle. It's in the red zone. Well, who's getting his butt over there? Goes back to what I talked about, Dietrich Wise. Hustling over to the ball. Just a really good effort play. It's what they're supposed to do. So you don't want to say like, oh my gosh, great hustle. That's what they're supposed to do. That's a job of a professional. Get to the ball. What I also liked on the play, though, not only did he do it, the other two guys I saw in the screen first were Deron Payne and Eddie Goldman. They were getting over there. So if he doesn't make the play, one of those guys probably would have made it. Now, there were other guys coming up. It wasn't like they were alone, but I just like that they got over there really quick and did a nice job with it for sure. So I think that bodes well for the group. But again, to me, it's a mindset. And I think that's what you have to have. And I think that's one thing this group looks for is the mindset. One of the reasons I like Dietrich Wise's addition, because I felt like he had that kind of a mindset that would fit in really well with what Dan Quinn is trying to build here, for sure. And I think, I don't think he's alone. Javon Kinlaw, I think, plays a certain way. And he was pretty excited after the game because, as he said, he's healthy. So you saw his impact. I'm going to get to that in one second. So I also liked Will Harris. Like I'll get into him more probably for Thursday at my 5 thoughts because I think he did a nice job. But one play I want to mention was there was one play where the Giants ran a tackle eligible play. Tackle's lined up as a tight end, but he tackle eligible play. Actually, he was lined up as a tight end. So, but he's eligible. He's a tackle number eligible. And, Dorrance Armstrong is against him, gets inside the guy, and his job is to get after the passer. But the guy who picks him up is Will Harris. He was aware of what was going on, knew that the guy could go out for routing, even though he's wearing 70 whatever, and just latches onto him and does a good job. Russell Wilson has nowhere to go with the ball, has to throw it away. And it's partly why this team was able to stop them in the red zone. Just some really good, I showed you hustle plays, I showed you smart plays, or talked about them. And I think that's a big reason why they were able to hold New York to one field goal on those 2 trips in the red zone, where they had some big stops. I don't think the Giants have a lot of weapons to threaten a team inside the red zone. They're not, it's not a good offense. But you give a team at the 1-yard line, chances are they're going to score a touchdown. The Giants did not. So there you go. Again, Kinlaw's impact, the size is just very evident. And excuse me, it was evident throughout camp. And the one thing I wondered with him is the consistency of his game. And I didn't go back and watch. I wasn't able to watch every play he played, but I saw the impact for sure. And, you saw the size, and he took advantage of single teams, and that's what he needs to do. So if you're lined up right by Von Miller and Deron Payne, and you have, other guys on that line, like you're gonna get some single teams. You have to win. The one thing, and this is what I talked about with this group going into the season. Let's see how it plays out. It's one game, right? It's just one game, so it's got to play out against the Packers on Thursday. How does it play out against the Raiders the next week? But what I liked is they can line up with multiple players who can win a one-on-one. They haven't always been able to do that. And I think with the movement they create, I think that helps, right? So, but if you may not have that double-digit sack guy, although shoot, like watching Dorrance Armstrong and maybe Louisville, maybe those guys get there. But the point is, you don't have them. You don't have that big-time sack guy that everyone's like, you got to worry about him. Instead, you have some depth of guys who can win their one-on-one, and that's really effective. So you can line up with five guys out there capable of that, four guys out there capable of that. And I think that was a good thing. I liked, but you saw that with Kinlaw, like, he was a three technique and he's getting inside guys. He runs a stunt with 91. You saw the power and the quickness to get off a guy, right? So that you saw that consistently with him. With Wise, you saw power, effort, professionalism in terms of approach. But I think, again, he's not the only one in that group. Watched him drive the left tackle back a couple times right into Russell Wilson's lap. It's a backup left tackle, but if you're Dietrich Wise, it's what you have to do. And if you're not doing it, that's a problem, right? I'd much rather see him do it and say, oh, well, it's a backup left tackle, than if you see, oh, the backup left tackle stopped him. Which one would you rather see? He did what he was supposed to do. And like I said, that's what I liked about this game, and something we have, well, you should be getting used to it by now, because I think it's what this group has done. Prior years, you're not used to that. Prior years, you say, well, they should have done this, like they were playing this and they didn't do this. Well, this time it's like, hey, what should happen in this game? They should win this game by double digits, and they did. Again, Dorrance Armstrong to me stood out, and I don't know that he was talked about enough because there are other guys, but like his presence was there, and like he offers a very good versatile piece. Like he's rushing inside, he's standing up over the middle, standing up over here, standing up over there, 3-point stance here, 3-point stance there. Watch him split a double team, rolls off, gets the sack. So, one time he shoots inside the right tackle, gets a pressure. Watch them drop. One time they ran a 3-4 look. So he was the outside linebacker in this. Drops into space. It's a 2nd and 10. Drops into space. Tight end gets the ball to that side. The right play by the quarterback. The right guy. You get the tight end the ball on that side. And here comes Dorrance Armstrong with a beautiful form tackle, like grabs him at the legs, just takes him down. Like, who was that? And it was Dorrance. Like, that's not how a defensive end should look at them. Like, that was a very smooth play by Dorrance Armstrong. So just a good job by a lot of people up front. I think that's where you should be encouraged, because it wasn't just one guy taking advantage of Andrew Thomas not being there. Like, that's a professional football team offensive line. And they took advantage of them. They stopped the run because of it. They kept the linebackers clean because of it. So I think it's a smart group, and I think you'll see that play out. So if they keep doing this, man, I told you, I thought I predicted 10-7 with a chance to go higher, because I think it's a good team. And I think the more they play like this, the higher you can start to go, because the offense is going to figure it out. And I also think like this game Thursday is a good test. I never put it as the test, because the test is 17 games. Like, there are going to be big wins every year. It's like, oh, that means this. And you know what? Maybe it doesn't, because really what it is, it's about building on success and then trying to, reverse the failures. So one game doesn't define anything, but it's certainly like you certainly have a chance to do something. But win or lose, you still got to come back and play the Raiders and beat them. So anyway, I like what this team is doing. And if this defense continues that, because it was a slight question, is like, okay, what's the reality here, right? But I think the reality was Sunday they were very good. And if they continue like that, it could be a much more fun season than I think maybe anticipated. But long way to go, only one game. So first of all, let's get to the AAA drive of the week. Okay, so the AAA drive of the week occurred in the second quarter, 11:40 they took over. So The score is what? 7-3. Obviously, the Commanders winning. I picked this out because it's a rarity. And I know my guy Sam 48 pointed out on Twitter about just how rare this is and just try to look and see when's the last time it's happened. Hard to find it, but it's notable because of what happened on the drive in a negative way, and they still overcame it to get a touchdown. They started with the ball at their own 42. They have two sacks on the drive, and they also commit a penalty. They had a 2nd and 16. Jaden Daniels hits Deebo Samuels for 16 yards. They have a 1st and 15, 4-yard sack. They have a 2nd and 19. Jaden Daniels hits Terry McLaurin for 13 yards. Then he scrambles for 11. And then a couple plays later, here comes Jacory Krosky-Merritt, Bill, with the 6-yard touchdown run, the first of his career. And again, I talked about this the other day, but what I really like, and I'll get into Krosky-Merritt in a minute, but so I'm not going to waste time there. But that's why this was the drive of the game. It gave him a 14-3 lead. For that Giants offense, clearly an insurmountable early deficit in the second quarter when the team scores 14. But it was a really nice drive because I think it highlights how good this offense is, can be, and will be. Because you don't do that unless you have special talent. When you watch this team, like I really like what I saw from Deebo, and I'm going to talk about him in a second. But man, I think that's a credit to Jaden Daniels. It's a credit to guys like Deebo. You have McLaurin, you have Eckler, didn't do anything in that drive. And then I think you have to have Bill in there because he did a really nice job on that drive as well with that touchdown. Then he had a couple other runs too. So Jaden Daniels using his legs and his arm to convert on that drive. Just highlighted a lot of what they can do, but it shows you that, remember back in the day, like you get a penalty, you get a sack, and you may as well just punt right there, even if it's first and 15, because they had a hard time getting out of that, especially, maybe you get a first down, but to go down and score is really difficult, and that's what they were doing. That's why it's my drive of the week. And so speaking of AAA, Commanders fans, this is for you. Level up with the brand new AAA Commanders MVP membership. You'll receive all the benefits of AAA, such as a 24/7 roadside assistance, plus chances to win game tickets, access to exclusive team events and experiences, along with 15% off Commanders gear at the online pro shop. Already a AAA member? Add the Commanders MVP membership for free. Head to AAA.com/Commanders to upgrade or join the squad and put your fandom in drive. All right, so let's get back to some talk here, game talk. I wanted to go, before I get to Deebo and some others, Josh Connolly, and I wasn't able to watch every play from him, so I'm not going to draw massive conclusions about his game, but there were some issues that he had that I think are worth discussing. And, there were a couple of times, like, I felt like overall, for a rookie debut, he didn't kill them, right? He didn't hurt them. There are a couple of plays that he needs to clean up, and that's the thing you want to watch. And some of the stuff is like how much of it relates to play strength, how much of it relates to experience. I think it's both. And the play strength, they knew it would take a year to get where he needs to be with the play strength. But can you compensate? He can. And one thing they did try to do, they did use Deebo Samuel, chipped a lot on his side. That I think you're going to definitely see a lot of on Thursday night, because guess where Micah Parsons likes to and will probably line up a lot is at the left defensive end against Connolly. So he's going to have to really, get better. And he did that during training camp. I don't have any doubt that he will throughout the season, but there were a couple things. Again, sometimes it might be, again, the play strength, you saw it. And sometimes you see that strength where, and you would see like Laramie Tunsil or Trent Williams back in the day, when a guy gets by him, if you push him, are you able to bump him off his path to help your quarterback and maybe recover yourself? I didn't see that enough from him. And so will he do that? I didn't watch enough of the times, and he wasn't beaten that many times off the edge like that, where you can say, oh, okay, this time he did it, that time he didn't. A couple of times he did he gave up a sack. So one time he gets his feet crossed up on that sack where Deebo Thibodeau chips him, and he sets fine, and then he kind of flattens his right foot, and that allows Thibodeau to get around him. Now on the same play, and here's where I made a mistake on my post-game stuff, and I said that Laramie Tunsil had no penalties. Well, he did get called for a penalty, a sack on that play, but it was negated by the sack on their side. He also got beat. Coleman got beat. I think those guys, by and large, did a pretty good job. There was one time Connolly got a little bit impatient. And this is one of the things I talked with him about on Friday, about just like how you have to handle that kind of a front, because he's played against Abdul Card. He's like, he knew the key is be patient. Well, sometimes there was one time he's a little bit impatient, and that's when Thibodeau got around him. And then a couple of times where maybe you're a little bit too patient and Thibodeau gets in his pads and was able to drive him back. And that's where that play strength, and sometimes it's not just play strength, it's learning like what happens when somebody gets in your chest. And if you start to get upright, well, you lose all your strength. So your strength's got to come from, that lower body, right? And so like, can you anchor like that and not get driven back? The good thing for him is they have a quarterback who can help you when that situation arises. Like there was one time Coleman gets beat, but you didn't know it. Why? Because number five gets rid of the ball pretty quick in that situation. And guess what? No harm, no foul. So that's one of the good things. So I think that's at one time on a run play, Thibodeau gets inside him. And again, that's where that plays. If you can drive him inside more with your strength, then you can maybe offset that ability, that what happened. And I think that's something to just let's see how that progresses for him as he gets better. It's his first start. First start. And again, this guy improved throughout training camp over the last several weeks and since that Patriots scrimmage or the Patriots scrimmage or a joint practice through the end of camp. And this is first game action. It's a lot faster. That's a fast group that they have up front, and he's gonna face arguably the fastest defensive end in the league on Thursday, Micah Parsons. So a good test for him, a good setup for him for Thursday, for sure. And by the way, I'm going to have Rob Demoski, our Packers reporter, on Wednesday to talk about the Packers in that game. So I felt like Brandon Coleman, when I was able to see, did a pretty nice job. One thing I liked is that when he pulled last year, when he would pull from a tackle position, too often I felt like he didn't arrive with power. So he didn't impact his guy because maybe you're not like really exploding and sinking your hips and getting in, exploding into your guy. I felt like he did that more on Sunday. When I watched him a couple times when he pulled, I felt like he did that. And I think that's a good sign because you're going to want to pull a lot. And if he's able to kick out and do that, or at least prevent that guy from doing anything, that's a good sign. He also did a nice job. I think it was like on an 11 or 12-yard run by Krosky Meredith, just turning. He takes the defensive tackle and turns him outside and just wins that battle. So I felt like that was a good job. I think, again, I thought like he and Tunsil did a good job handling a lot of the stunts. There was one time they got beat on that, and that was the sack that Connolly helped give up. But I felt like overall, it seemed like they did a pretty good job there. I felt like Coleman played with some awareness. So I liked what I saw from that group, from those two, for sure. And there was, again, one time it was a spin move that Thibodeau got by Coleman on. I mean, Thibodeau is obviously pretty quick to be going against for a guard, and I know he played tackle last year, but that's one where Jaden Daniels gets the ball out quick. And so nice job there. Debo Samuels, again, lots of chips. The one thing I liked with Debo is he did a lot for them, right? And the chipping, the kick returns. He blocked, he caught 7 passes, he had a run, 2 kick returns. So I think there's a lot that he does to a team that really adds them. Back in the day, Brian Mitchell filled multiple roles, and it was hard to replace a guy who fills that many roles. I kind of feel the same with Debo. Obviously, different player, but the ability to do multiple things for an offense really kind of enhances what they can do. To me, one game just shows you like really good pickup there, and for sure. So I like that, with him in there, you have to really honor things. It's funny because I talked to Jeremy Reeves about this during the training camp about what this offense does to a defense. He said it really keeps you guessing. On defense, you don't want to guess, but this offense keeps you guessing. And there were a couple plays where they ran with Debo where it almost appears to be elements of a single wing offense where quarterback gets the ball, you spin, you got one guy coming this way, you got a guy going in motion the other way, coming behind the quarterback. Who's he going to give it to? You saw that a couple of times involving Debo and Eckler and Jaden, right? Who's going to keep the ball? Is he going to hand it here? Is he going to give it here inside to Eckler? Or is he going to keep the ball around the M? You've got it. It's going to keep you guessing. Now, will teams get used to that? Yeah, but you have to have stuff off of that for sure. And I'm sure they will. I mean, what we did see off that is play action, fake, step back, boom. Now you got somebody down the middle because maybe they're creeping up. Maybe they're hesitating over here. So there's things you can do off that I'm curious to see what they do with it, for sure. But it was interesting. And by the way, one play with Debo where he was wide open was that last play before the half where Jaden Daniels gets called for intentional grounding. So a rare lapse by him. However, when you're looking at it, when I watch it, like, and I'm putting up a still picture here, it looks like Tunsil at the snap is still in a stance. So something, and Jaden kept saying miscommunication. And I wonder if clearly there's something there because he wasn't ready to go or didn't move, react at the snap. And Abdul Carter just gets right by him and gets right into Jaden. And so he's got to throw it away. Now, could he throw it out the back? If he throws it out the back of the end zone, they're kicking a field goal there. So yeah, he could have done that. So I don't know on the route if somebody's supposed to whatever they're supposed to do. But what I do know is on the other side, if somebody blocks Carter and just holds him for a second, you got Deebo Samuel running in the end zone open. And I know like the safety's reacting to the quarterback on that play. So maybe he's in a better position to do something. However, just when looking at it on video, and again, I can't show you the video, but I'm looking at it, I don't think it would have mattered. I think he has him if that play holds out. So that really could have been a touchdown to Deebo Samuel for sure. So by the way, liked what I saw from Jalen Lane. I like that, and Dan Quinn talked about this. You have to look for what are the things you want to build on as a coach. So yeah, you dropped the ball. Okay, it was a little bit behind him. You got to catch it, right? That not every ball is going to be perfect. If you're waiting for a perfect pass every time, you're in the wrong business if you're a receiver. So you got to catch that ball. But what I like is Daniels goes back to guys and he gets it to Jalen Lane, catches it. I like how quickly he turns up and gets extra yards. That to me is a strength. I think you're going to see that play out as a punt return. Now, he hasn't had that long return yet. I do think it's going to come because I think he makes guys miss, but he has a good, quick first step. I think you'll see that as a receiver. I like that he's earned his play time for sure, and I think that's a good thing. Um, Oh, and then for Krosky Merritt. So I talked about him after the game obviously, but one of the things I like about him is I talk about the vision, you talk about the violent cuts, but on the 42-yard run, like well blocked play. But what I really liked is how he cuts. So he's not quite weaving his way, but it's kind of like that. But what I like is when he cuts and he dekes the safety downfield, gets about 15 more yards. But what he does on the play, he does it full speed. There's not a shuffle step and go. There's no slowing down with it. You're running full speed, boom, plant. I know what I'm going to do, plant, go. And I remember I asked him after the game with some of that stuff, like, are you able to see beyond? Like sometimes I would say, like, they can see beyond that first wave, right? So you can set a guy up like when Alfred Morris got more experience, he would talk about like he's seeing a guy, the second level guy, and he's like, I know I have this first level guy based on the blocking, so I'm going to set that second level guy up. And he would do that. Krosky Mara, I asked him if are you able to do that right? Because a couple times it looked like that. He's like, not yet. Like this is instinctive right now. It's a hell of an instinct there, but it's just the ability to cut going full speed created that little hesitation by the safety. He slips through the tackle and gets about 15 more yards because of that little cut at full speed. Just something else to watch, just another thing to watch with him. And there's going to be a lot of fun things to watch with him because what we saw Sunday, is every game going to be like that? He's not going to average 8.2 for the season, I don't think. But will every game be like that? No. But I do think he'll have some good runs because I think the more he gets comfortable, you watch how they create these creases and gaps for these guys. And you saw it with Eckler. You see it for Daniels. I mean, Dexter Lawrence talked about that. Like he just creates his own gaps. I think you'll see Krosky Merritt take advantage of them. The more comfortable he gets, the more reps he can get, then I think that's going to be a good thing for him. Oh, one last thing on Deebo Samuel, by the way, and it was, asked about Quinn and using him on kick returns. To me, he had 10 touches. That is not working him too much, in my opinion, right? And I think the one reason they like him on kick returns, we've talked about this, because it's a more of a running back situation. Now, he's not a running back. He's built like one, and he runs like one. So I think like he's a really good guy to have in that spot. And I think he or McCaffrey. Now, the guy that I'm glad they're limiting is Eckler because he's going to touch the ball more, concussion issues. But with Deebo, he's built strong, good to go. And I think because of the style of play, like he's a game breaker, you want to get game breakers as many touches as you can. And it's another way to do that with him. All right, last thing here on Terry McLaurin. So 2 catches for what? I think it was 29 yards, 27 yards. Not a big day for him by any means. And that's not a surprise. I'm going to try and get the numbers here. So I apologize. I flipped through the game book. I should have had that ready. Sorry about that. So he had 2 catches for 27 yards. So not, 4 targets, not a lot of action. So I think it comes down to a couple things. Was he doubled a lot? I think one of the receivers said, with Terry being doubled, well, I didn't really see any double teams. I saw guys cheating to him a few times, right? I saw safety might roll to his side a few times, but I don't think that was like this big. It wasn't like the Eagles game last year where they bracketed him more than I had seen by other teams. It wasn't that. I did see the cheating. I don't think there were definitely times he had chances for more. He was really a couple plays from having 4 catches for a lot of yards. So that would have looked really good. And I think some of this comes back to um, there's he missed all of camp. And it's funny, I go on the Junkies every Monday morning in DC on 1067. And I think one of them, maybe Lurch, asked me, like, do you think it was a timing there? In my mind, I hadn't rewatched that play yet. And so in my mind, I felt like it was a 10-yard over. Like, no, because it's 200. Well, it was only a couple yards. So I do think that plays into it. Like, you still have to get that timing down. You have the chemistry, both have the knowledge, it's going to get there because it was, but you've got to get it back. And I think that was part of it on that particular play. I think you give Jaden Daniels that throw 10 times, he's going to make it 9 times. Because there was a really good move by McLaurin, a really good move. And what I like too is that he had the whole outside to work with. So he gave Daniels a lot of room to throw on that ball to get him to the outside, just a little bit long, but I think that was the timing. And then it's natural. Like here are the guys, Deebo Samuel had 10 targets. Well, who's the guy he worked with the most this camp? It was Deebo Samuel. There's a lot of trust there. And I also think there were a couple times, there was one time in particular where it looked like, the route that McLaurin ran takes him deep. The safety's cheating a little bit to him, eyes him more, and allows Deebo to come over the middle. And they got him on a crosser for like a 21-yard gain. So I think that's one time where you could take advantage of it. But otherwise, there was, Zach Ertz had 5 targets. So the guys, 15 targets to Samuel and Ertz, those are the guys that he was working with the most, and he has really good chemistry with them. It'll happen with McLaurin. I don't think anybody's worried about that, but it wasn't as simple as, he was being double teamed a lot. I don't think it was that. I think it was a combination of, there were a couple times a little bit more attention, not so severe that you couldn't do something with them, and not so severe that he would only have, that's why they limited him to 4 targets and 2 catches. No, I think there were a couple other factors. And here's the other thing that I like about Jaden Daniels. He's not sitting there trying to force a guy. You look over here, it's not there. He's going over there. We saw that a couple times too with McLaurin. There's one time he looks at his side off the snap. I don't know that he was looking at McLaurin or who he was looking at, but he looks at the side and he immediately goes to the other side. And there are a couple of times where McLaurin and Ertz were running hitches basically on either side. Well, he went to Ertz for whatever reason. He's going to Ertz right away, and they were completed. So you're not going to complain about that. I don't think McLaurin's going to complain about that. I think McLaurin, so they won the game. Like, yes, could he have done more? Yeah, that one play, he got a couple targets. Remember the Tampa Bay game, he didn't get a lot of targets in that game either. And they also missed in that game too. Like, Jaden missed him on could have been like a really long, I think it was it would have been like a 60-yard touchdown pass, just too long. Same thing yesterday. So I would think that where Green Bay's corners are not strong. So it wouldn't shock me if he gets a few more opportunities in that game to make some plays down the field, because I think you're going to want to try that against that group. So not worried about that, but I don't think it's as simple as double teamed. I think there were other factors that led to that. But I think the more it goes, I think it's a good thing that he and Noah Brown combined for 4 catches for 54 yards, but they scored. They had 432 yards of total offense. That's not too bad, given that if they hit that one play, it's a long touchdown catch. Now you're almost at 500 yards of offense just off a couple more passes. There was one time where McLaurin has a deep comeback on the deep out, who's coming back to the ball. And this is one where Connolly gets driven back into the lap of Daniels. Daniels can't step in the ball, so the ball's a little bit on throw. It's the ball where they thought, did he catch it or not? And they looked at it, ruled it not a catch. But if Daniels has a chance to step into that ball, then McLaurin gets another catch. So that's why I say, like, he was close to having 4 catches for a touchdown and, let's say, 90-some yards or so, right? Maybe more, maybe 100 yards. Suddenly his game looks a lot different. It's like, hey, man, the guy hasn't played in the summer, and look at what he did in the first game. So it's that close. I think some of that's timing, some of that's, again, Connolly getting driven back, a couple different reasons. But anyway, folks, so that's all I got for today. I don't really, I hope you enjoyed it. and I hope you learned something. And I will be back on Wednesday with another episode. Bram and I will hopefully start doing these live streams next week. Too hard in a short week, but I'll be back on Wednesday with Rob Domofsky, our ESPN Packers reporter. Get some intel on the Packers, Micah Parsons, that offense. Should be a fun game, man. It's so much fun, folks, just to go to a game and talk about games that freaking matter. I mean, it's like I think you guys can tell that I enjoy that, and it's such a refreshing change. I hope for you, I know for you guys it is as well. So it's just win or lose, man. It's like I don't think this alters their season if they lose, and it certainly makes them look different if they win. But I think this is a good team, and I don't think they don't need to win this game to show they're a good team. They could win this game to say like, hey, they're maybe more than a good team, and that just to really go from there. But that'll play itself out. I appreciate you tuning in. I'll be back on Wednesday. So I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you next time.